welcome back to Washington Commanders Insider. Today we're talking about round 2 for the Washington Commanders. We're going to be talking about their selection at the cornerback position, Trey Amos, talking about why this might be a huge impact player for the Washington Commanders from day one. And so before we go ahead and jump into it, I first want to remind you to hit that subscribe button, just like Jaden Daniels is going to be hitting Deebo Samuel, Terry McLaurin, Zach Ertz, you name it, lots of receivers, many touchdowns this upcoming season. And so in exchange for hitting that subscribe button, I'm going to give you nothing but daily content around the Washington Commanders. So make sure you go ahead, you hit that subscribe, you hit the like button, you join the Washington Commanders Insider family as we talk nothing but Washington Commanders football. And so let's go ahead and jump into the content as we are looking at Trey Amos out of Ole Miss. He was the round 2 selection for the Washington Commanders at pick 61. And so here is what, I guess the experts really love about him. And then when you read this too in the NFL Draft Buzz profile, they talk about a guy that is just nasty in the press coverage. In fact, that's one of the things they say is that his ability to win in press is exceptional. He's pretty violent with his hands. He's able to redirect wide receivers that way. And so that is point number one. The Washington Commanders are getting a very physical corner at the point of attack in the press coverage. And I think that could be really huge, especially depending on what happens to Marshon Lattimore. I think that really when the Washington Commanders got Marshon Lattimore, they were looking to get a player that was going to bring that type of nastiness to the defensive unit. Now, I don't think he necessarily got a chance to show everything that he could do. I think he does take another step with this team this upcoming year, coming back from the injury. But, man, it's great to see if you can get Marshon Lattimore back to where he was when he was with the Saints. You add another guy like Trey Amos that can be physical as a corner. I mean, this could be huge for the Washington Commanders. And next up, I think point number 2, and from what I'm reading, and then also too, we'll bring up what was said there on ESPN when he was drafted, is just he has the ability to win in the 50-50 situations. And so just looking at the highlight clips that I saw from him, it seems that when he's in the battle for the 50-50 balls, when, you're going back and forth with the wide receiver, just kind of in that hand battle, he seems to be the guy where it slows down for him and he's able to get up there and make a good contest on the football. And so you love that. He's going to need that. All right. And so we're going to talk about his weaknesses as well, but it also can be a strength for him is his ability to kind of slow things down in the midst of kind of battling with the wide receiver and get a good contest. And so number 3 with him is it talks about the fact that when he comes down to tackle, there's times where he does bring the level of physicality as a tackler. And I've said this before, the Washington Commanders are certainly going to have to clean up what they did defensively against the run. And I think it does start with having, corners and safeties that are going to be willing to get up near the box or to come downhill at least and get these guys before they get started into the second level. Because if you're not getting good tackles, on these elite running backs, then they're just going to shake through these arm tackles and things like that. It's going to turn into huge gains or it could turn into a touchdown. So you got to have some players that are going to be able to come up out of the secondary and make some plays. Obviously, with the front half and the back half of the defense, it goes hand in hand. So, clearly you want to start to clean up the assignments up front. But if you do lose containment or a player does get into the secondary or start to get there, you need to have a player that's going to come up and make those plays. And so it looks like that Trey Amos, with what he could do physically, that seems like it will really, kind of translate to the National Football League. And so the next thing that they talk about with him is that, look, he's been an elite competitor. And so when you talk about a guy that you're looking for consistency, I think that you saw that really with what he's been doing over his time in college football. They talk about the fact that he started in all 13 games in 2024. So that's good to see. Had 50 tackles. He had 3.5 tackles for loss. He had 3 interceptions as well. And so you love that. And then the pass breakup. So not only was he, a player that definitely showed some physical skill, but he was a player that Look, he showed up every day, and it says that he was a premier defensive back in the SEC. And so you know that there is some elite competition in the SEC. So you love that. And then, they talk about the fact that just going back to the nastiness with him, he brings like a level of juice. And I think that that type of juice is something that this Washington Commanders team certainly will want. I think when you talk about just the competitive nature that the Washington Commanders want to have in their building, he has that. I think that he'll fit right in as far as the personality standpoint. We talked about this a little bit, with Josh Connerly Jr. and then Adam Peters saying that, look, he is definitely a Commander. And so this is another guy that, look, he has the characteristics of being that type of player. He'll be a guy that will bring some serious juice to the building. And now, as far as the weaknesses are concerned, it's very interesting. And we know going into this thing that, look, all NFL draft prospects are going to have to clean something up. I don't care if you were picked number 1 or you're the last pick in the NFL draft. Everybody is going to have to get better at the next level. And so with him, one of the things that they talked about is that, look, for the same thing that he gets praise on as far as being able to win in the 50-50 balls and stuff like that, he also can get handsy down the field as well. And I just talked about just kind of battling through the hand contact with the wide receiver, whatever the case may be. And they were saying that, look, maybe that's something that could draw, a lot of pass interferences. And so this is, again, looking at his NFL draft buzz profile and what they're saying there. Say another thing, too, is at times he kind of has like these moments where I guess he maybe gets lost in his zone coverage there a little bit, maybe flat-footed. That type of indecision can kind of lead to really some good windows of separation underneath. And so he's got to clean that up, be a little bit more sure and probably confident in that zone coverage. And I think clearly that's something that as you start to understand defensively what the team wants to do from a scheme standpoint, you get more comfortable with that. Obviously, the confidence is something that I think he continues to build as he plays some games. So I think that that's not going to be a real issue there. And then the next thing they talk about is that, we talked about, his hands and how he can be aggressive and kind of valid at the line of scrimmage and knocking wide receivers off their routes. Well, that can also, too, kind of go against him, kind of leads, like it's saying that it leads it to maybe a situation where he's vulnerable for like a quick inside release that can, open it up for a quick pass. And then who knows if he misses the tackle, maybe that opens up for something else. So that's something to also note. But again, these are weaknesses that it just comes down to, I think, refining that. One of the things it does close off on in, again, his draft profile is it says that you're getting a player that he's going to be able to sub in initially and should work his way to being a full-time starter by year 2. And so that is huge to know that. During the NFL draft, I was talking about the live reaction. Louis Riddick, ESPN, was talking about how he compares to Patrick Surtain II, who is the corner over with the Denver Broncos. And we know that guy is pretty much an island over there. Like, you're not going to get anything done on his side of the field. And so I like that. And I like the fact that really he's a guy that I would expect that if he becomes a starter, he's going to be opposite of Marshawn Lattimore. And then maybe what you can do now is you can push now Mikey Sanders still inside where he's more natural that way. And I think that we see Mikey Sanders still maybe take another jump because of the addition of Trey Amos. And so let me know in the comments what you guys think. Do you feel like that, look, this was a terrific selection for the Washington Commanders in picking up Trey Amos at cornerback? I had been talking about this during the live kind of draft, watch, reaction, whatever you want to call it, that a lot of the edge players that were in mock drafts going to the Washington Commanders had come off the board. They didn't go corner or anything else. And so we get Trey Amos. Again, he might be one of the more physical corners in this draft. And I think maybe you really have a player that, he looks like he could be a day one starter for us. I certainly think that, look, if he were drafted last season with Mikey Sanders still, I think absolutely he would have played a lot of snaps and definitely would have been in consideration for, the starting job. Now, we'll see what happens now with the additions that the Washington Commanders made in free agency and then also to who they brought back. And we'll also see just how much he's going to compete. But again, one of the bigger things that they talk about with him is the juice that he brings to the building. And so I think that really leads into being what you would want out of a Washington Commander. So anyway, let me know what you're thinking there. And if you missed it, again, Josh Connerly Jr., he was the first selection for the Washington Commanders at pick 29. And then at pick 61, this is where we came back and we got Trey Amos out of Ole Miss, cornerback. And he's compared to a Patrick Surtain II. So I'd love to hear what your thoughts are. And as we always say, go Commanders. And I will see you guys on the next one. All right, peace.